Hello, and welcome to Sideways. You know, the fog is so thick this morning that I can hardly see where I end and the rest of the world begins. And in a way, that's our subject matter this week, because we're talking about what it is to be codependent, what it is to define our entire selves, our value, according to the way that other people see us, and the lengths that we'll go to in order to make sure that they see us in the light that we want them to. I've got to be honest with you, it's not a barrel of laughs, this one, but we do find time to have a chuckle about numerology and Polish black metal. Codependency.
Good morning to you. Just nodding. That's all you need to do.
Is that what we're going to do today?
Just nod instead of saying hello.
I suspect the depth of the content will be compromised.
On what basis? We're just going to nod all the way through.
If we just tried to nod our way through an entire episode, I'm not sure it would be tremendously entertaining for our listeners. No. And B, I think we'd probably make significantly less sense than usual.
Which is quite tricky. It's quite tricky, but I understand what you're saying. But this is our last episode of season 6. Did you realise that?
I did realise that, yeah.
Episode 26, so we'll be on to season 7 next.
Yeah, that's a lucky number for a lot of people, isn't it?
It is, but in fact, talking about being lucky, number 156, which is the number of episodes we did in total. I looked that up, and it's quite significant in numerology, apparently.
Is it?
I didn't understand what they were talking about. It all seemed to be a lot of hogwash. But
so is this episode 156?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
what does it mean then?
Well, it's supposed to represent energy and creativity, which we haven't started off on a very good foot in that case, have we?
Well, I don't know. I suppose you could argue that the idea of going through an entire podcast episode nodding is actually quite creative.
That's creative, yeah. It doesn't take a lot of energy.
No, exactly. So there we go. It involves energy and creativity because it's low energy and it is highly creative.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. That works then, doesn't it? It's
also shit.
Well, no, I think numerology then's got a lot going for it. I thought it was rubbish, but now you've pointed out that it is very significant.
Yeah.
But my initial system didn't work, did it really? Because I was doing 26 episodes in each season so that I could keep an eye on, because that represents 6 months. So I could easily keep an eye on how long we've been doing it for. But then we've had a couple of breaks, haven't we? So it hasn't quite worked out. But
that's not the first time you've mentioned that, which suggests to me that it still bothers you.
It does bother me. So I feel it's a slightly out of kilter with what I wanted. But there we go.
It doesn't bother me.
I don't suppose it does for 1 minute. But also 156 is a song by the, you probably know them. They're a Polish black metal band called Blaze of Perdition. Are they on your Spotify?
I don't think I've got any of their material. I know 2468 Motorway by the Tom Robinson Band, if that's any good.
That's much more melodic than 156 by Blaze of Perdition, I've got to say.
I wonder how they came up with that particular song title.
I don't know.
They're into numerology.
They must have been.
They thought we'll use a lot of energy for this, and it'll be highly creative.
Yeah, but it's a rubbish song, so I wouldn't worry yourself too much about listening to it.
Well, let's be honest. You didn't really need to tell me that, did you?
No, not really. No.
Did you imagine I was going to rush off and try and listen to it after the episode?
It's not really in the sort of genre of music that you like to indulge in, is it?
It's not in my wheelhouse, is it? Really?
It's not really. I don't know what that means, but no.
No, I don't really know what that means, but I quite like it as a phrase.
You can just throw it in, can't you? Confuses people.
It's not in my wheelhouse. I suppose, is that a house that just contains wheels?
I'm just thinking of like an old mill, really.
I think that's probably where it comes from, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
good.
Something else I didn't understand was the term codependency, which is what I want to talk to you about today.
Great.
I've had a misunderstanding about it, really. I always thought that it meant two people in a relationship which were entirely dependent upon each other.
No, not really.
But it's not. And I looked it up, and it really isn't that, is it? And I'll come on to what it is after.
I mean, there are situations in which that definition would fit
Yeah.
codependent relationship. But I expect we'll hit upon some examples of that as we go through.
We will. We would do that.
In fact, addiction would be one of those.
It is, and we will do that. But before we start, there's just a little article I was reading about a woman who got sacked from her job for being annoying. Which was, well, apparently she talked incessantly and she ate loudly.
Right.
Yeah. And apparently lots of people that in the company that she worked for threatened to leave unless she was sacked. And there's sort of, I looked further into it, and it's sort of divided opinion on social media, that's for sure, whether it was legal, which apparently it is. It can be a...
Well, you can be fired for being annoying.
Yeah, I think there is.
Surprising that neither of us were ever fired then.
Well, I think some of the places I worked in, it would have been empty if that was a valid reason to sack people. It would have been a ghost staff, a skeleton staff. I mean,
I'm just trying to think how I feel about that. I
sounds like
my first instinct was, that's fair enough. Being sacked for being annoying.
It is, but if people are ganging up, it's almost bullying, isn't it? If people are ganging up and say, "Oh, we're going to leave if she doesn't get the tin tack."
Yeah, it's like a football team refusing to play for the manager when they say he's lost the dressing room and they start losing games they shouldn't lose just to kind of force him out. But I suppose, I suppose that's it just happens, doesn't it?
It does. And in fact, that's the first time we've mentioned football on here for a long time, because it is one of those areas we've always decided we weren't going to drift into.
Yeah, but at least my reference to it was relevant.
It had an element of relevance to it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Well, that was my fear. I thought that if we spoke about football too much, we might lose the dressing room.
We would. We'd lose our
listeners would vote with their feet, wouldn't they?
It would, yeah.
Actually, that reminds me of something else that I read this week, which apparently it was a report about how listeners feel a growing intimacy with their podcast hosts when they listen to podcasts on headphones.
Just on headphones?
Well, apparently, yeah.
Okay.
So people who are listening to this, people who tend to listen to Sideways on headphones probably feel more intimately connected with them.
Do they? Is that because there's less distraction going on around them, perhaps? It does focus you a little bit, doesn't it? Because you're not aware of anything else.
Yeah, I'll post a link on the episode. And as I've said that, I just realised that last week I said I'd post a link to the Freedom.
Yeah, and you didn't bother,
didn't I? But I'll do it. I will do that. I'll correct that. I'll make myself a note in my Sideways notebook now.
Okay.
Is annoying me this morning because I just smudged some ink in it.
No good. That's not good, is it?
That's why I write in pencil usually. Right. Okay. So, anyway, carry on.
Subject matter. I just wanted to go through a quick definition that I came across of codependency, just so we can iron out the wrinkles and decide exactly what it is.
Can I give you a definition after you've given me yours?
Yours is probably better. Mine's slightly rambling, but I'll do mine first, and you can correct me of its horrendous mistakes. But I'll read it out. It says codependency is a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person assumes the role of the giver, sacrificing their own needs and well-being for the sake of the other, who's called the taker. The bond in question doesn't have to be romantic. It can just as easily occur between parent and child, friends, or family members, which sort of follows on quite nicely from what we talked about last week when we're talking about controlling behaviour. But would you say that definition is anywhere near how you would describe it?
I think, it is. It kind of... it references, I suppose, a kind of specific type of relationship. But I always think of codependency can be thought of as if you're okay, I'm okay. And if you're not okay, I'm not okay. I think that's a sign of codependency to me, because people who are codependent effectively define themselves according to how other people feel about them.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, that aligns, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm codependent, my entire relational life is lived in the context of how can I make sure the people around me think well of me and don't abandon me. Then I'm codependent.
Yeah. No, that again, that does fit neatly to what I was saying there. But interestingly and quite relevant to this podcast, I looked up where the origins of this word, or where it was first used. And it first appeared in substance abuse circles in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And it's used to describe a lopsided relationship that had been sort of consumed and controlled by one person's addiction. And when I was reading that and reading the works around it, I thought that it comes up so often. It really does. And, instantly came to mind a number of people that I know have been in exactly that sort of situation in the codependent relationship, either from the giver or the taker point of view. That's for sure.
Yeah, because it works in that kind of unhealthy symbiosis, doesn't it? If you're an addict and I'm your partner, then I do everything for you. So I pick up all of the slack that you're not picking up because you've got addiction problems. So you're kind of letting life go in so many respects. I pick up all that slack for you. So I feel I feel worthy. I feel like I'm enough because I'm doing all this stuff for you that you should be doing for yourself. And you get the pleasure of being able to stay in your self-destructive addiction.
That's it. And I'll come on to that as well. That's exactly right. Well, I think it's important to point out just here that it's not a clinical diagnosis, is it? Or a personality disorder. It's just literally a dynamic within a relationship, isn't it? It
is. And it also, and you're probably going to talk about this as well, but it also isn't confined to romantic relationships. It's, you can see it in parent-child friendships.
I said that in my definition. You obviously weren't listening properly.
Well, I was listening. But
he was listening.
I thought I'd just reiterate the point.
Reiterate. Okay, so it's a point that needs underlining. You're absolutely right.
I think it doesn't need underlining because I think we tend to think about codependency in terms of intimate relationship.
Yeah.
I don't think we think about it quite so much in terms of friendships or parent-child relationships.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange because the relationships that immediately sprang to mind when I was preparing these notes was parent and child.
Right.
I think I've come across that quite a lot.
Yeah, it's the relationship that comes most easily to my mind when I think about it because I had a codependent relationship with my mother.
Okay.
So my relationship with my mother was such that I only felt as if I could relax and be okay if she was happy with me.
Right, yeah.
And so I lived my kind of entire, as I say, early life, really probably up almost until middle age, where so many of my behaviours and activities were coloured by what she would think of me if I did this or didn't do that. But at the time, I didn't realise it was codependent, but now I can see it very clearly.
I mean, when you look at it and you think, well, what's wrong with that? There's it's quite nice to be devotional and to look after other people. But healthy relationships are mutually beneficial, aren't they? They provide love and support to both parties. Where in codependent relationships, they're much more one-sided, aren't they? Where one person can be the sort of constant caregiver.
Yeah, just to take that, I think the point you make there is an important one. Yes, it is lovely to be able to show love and care and affection for someone else. But if you're doing it to the exclusion of the care and love and affection you need to show yourself, it becomes destructive.
Yeah.
But moreover, when people are codependent, what they're really doing is they're offering that love in the expectation of return. So they're loving in that way because they need something. Okay. So that is not, when you look at it at the kind of on its face value, you think, well, that's a lovely thing to do. Isn't that person a lovely person? No, not really, because they're being destructive to themselves and they're giving with an expectation of return, which is why people who are codependent often get to the point where they start to feel resentful and bitter about what they're not getting in return.
Yes. And I can, again, thinking of relationships that I've witnessed, but you can look at a parent-child relationship and the parent came on the outside look like they're being caring and highly functional and helpful and supportive. But unfortunately, they always end up being enabling as well, enabling their irresponsible and destructive behaviour of the child. Yeah. I've come across that a lot where the parent, with addiction, people don't really know how to handle it. And as a parent, they go to the ends of the earth I think a mutual friend of ours whose parents were very wealthy were constantly sending him off to rehab, and they were paying for it. It gave them a sense of they were doing something, but they would also enable him, obviously, with money, etc., so that he could continue his destructive behaviour. Do you remember we had the lady's name doesn't spring to mind now. We had KL
Wells.
Do you remember KL?
Yeah,
that came on to the American lady that came on to her podcast. And I was talking to her about exactly that, where she felt the very thin dividing line between being supportive and enabling.
Yeah,
and she, by her own admission, she'd fallen into that trap where she ended up enabling. It was almost at her wit's end. She didn't quite know what to do.
Yeah,
and that's quite common, isn't it?
Certainly with addiction.
Yeah, yes, it is. I mean, do you see it? I mean, I don't know if people ever come in to see you and talk about this, or is it something that is you sort of, I don't want to use the word diagnose, but something you sort of stumble across when you're sifting through, people's issues?
What do you mean, codependency generally? Not specifically
you
with reference to addicts?
Not with addicts, particularly. No. Looking at outside of that, really.
Yeah. I mean, you see it all the time. It's constant. And
is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes people have already identified it. I can think of someone I work with now who is, very familiar with their own codependency. But a lot of the time, people don't recognise it, and they don't recognise it. And the way it kind of comes up is you kind of see these behavioural patterns in people's relationships, and then when you look back into their childhood, which is a favourite for us therapists.
Very much.
You will find what you find in codependent people is that somewhere in their childhood was either, significant trauma or some sort of unmet emotional need. Okay. So your emotional needs not being met as a child, which makes you kind of question your value. And that enables you then to kind of grow up trying to make sure that the people around you see you as valuable. So you kind of have difficulty feeling like you're enough as you are. You've got to do more. You've got to be contributing. Yeah, let me do that for you. I can do that for you. I can help you with that. It's like you're always trying to give something to ensure your value to someone else. And, mostly that's because you weren't imbued with a strong enough sense of value in childhood. Okay,
that makes sense. But I was looking at the signs of codependence. Or signs of codependency in a relationship. I've got several ideas that I can, but some of them are a little bit woolly, so I wanted to run them by you really and see what you thought, whether they were relevant or not. So someone who has a hard time saying no, or having poor boundaries.
Absolutely, because if you have a hard time saying no, then going back to what we've just been talking about, you are constantly putting someone else's needs above your own.
Yeah.
So, someone says, "Oh, can you give me a lift to so-and-so?" And you're thinking, well, I can't really because I've got something on. But you cancel the thing that you've got on. And you say, yeah, I can do that. Because what's happening is you're fearful of the consequence of saying no.
Right. Okay.
You think, if I say no to this person, I wonder if I'm going to damage my relationship with them. I wonder if they're going to love me less. I wonder if they're going to abandon me. That's the reason that people find it difficult to say no and maintain their boundaries.
Yeah, that does come up, which is another point. They're displaying fear of abandonment. So
that's why that's why we don't say no, because we're afraid of abandonment.
Yeah, and the second point there I was making about having poor boundaries. I'd imagine in codependent relationships that the boundaries aren't in place at all, are they? Well, if they are, they're constantly stepped over.
Correct. Yeah, because in order to maintain boundaries, you've got to have a sense of your own worth.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to say to someone, no, sorry, it's overstepping the mark for me. I'm not accepting that sort of behavior. And people who are codependent will find it difficult to do that because, again, they're fearful of the likely consequence of doing so.
Do you think that feeling a need to be liked by everyone is a sign of that as well? So would that come under people pleasing, would you say?
Yep, definitely. If you're a people pleaser and you've got to be liked by everyone and you're kind of, it goes back to what I said, my definition of codependency, I'm only okay if you are. And that will extend to other people being okay with us. So, you'll know people like this, but sometimes people can become fixated on people thinking well of them that really have no not much influence on their lives at all.
Right,
They become really disturbed if someone's taken against them.
Yeah.
So if you become kind of fixated on needing to make sure everyone's okay with you, there's no boundary there, because it's like you've got to the point where you'll kind of do whatever you need to in order to be approved of.
So is it, would you say that there's a communication issue as well there? So communicating honestly with the other person. Yeah. I mean, I think you touched on it when you said earlier on there that, you know, if someone said, can I have a lift somewhere, and you really can't do it, but you still go out of your way to do it anyway at the expense of your own issues.
Correct. It extends further than that, though, because people who are codependent won't express their emotion. You know, even if they're not asked to do something, if they're unhappy about something. So maybe you're unhappy. So let's say you're in a relationship with an addict, and they do something and you think, that's really upset me, that's really pissed me off. But you won't say it because you're worried about upsetting them.
Yeah.
So again, it's like a complete deprioritization of your own needs to prioritize the needs of somebody else. So yes, you won't communicate. You won't communicate your feelings, and you won't communicate your needs.
Which again, I can sort of relate to that. I really can. But feeling a need to always be in a relationship was a point that came up. Is that fair?
Yep. Because, I mean, again, this is about intimate relationships, because obviously we all got relationships outside of intimate relationships. But the benefit of being in an intimate relationship for someone who's codependent is they've got someone to save.
Right. Okay.
So if you don't have someone there that will accept this overbearing love that you want to offer, let me do that for you, don't worry about that, I'll pick it up, then it's like there's this vacuum. What the hell am I going to do with this? Because the reason that people who are codependent give all that love is because they can't give it to themselves. They've got to give it somewhere. That's the great tragedy of codependency, and actually it's also the way towards recovery. You've got to find a way of turning all of that attention that you give to other people to yourself. Right. So if you're not in a relationship, you've got nowhere to give it, and that becomes then very painful. The codependent people that I've worked with tend to be extremely uncomfortable in their own company for long periods of time.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, have you seen, or have you come across situations where a codependent relationship can move on to what we were talking about last week? You know, someone that's exerting controlling behaviour, and it can almost end up then becoming abusive.
Definitely. Yeah. Actually, the interesting thing about codependency, and I don't know if this is kind of, you don't see this very often when you kind of read about codependency, because usually in a codependent relationship, the roles are set. Someone is the kind of savior, and the other person is the taker, or the giver and the taker.
Yeah.
I've seen situations where those roles can shift.
Can they?
So for instance, someone, so to take your point there, you know, when perhaps there is an element of abuse in there, it becomes controlling. You know, being controlling is also a kind of sign of codependency.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of threat from one party to leave the relationship. The person who was the kind of giver then becomes very needy. Don't leave. I can't, you know, I don't want to live without you. It's like that kind of, it's almost like a temporary spin of roles. And I can think of people that I've worked with who've been in relationships where those roles seem to be constantly shifting. You know, when one person feels safe in the relationship, I use that word advisedly, you know, because the fragile balance is maintained, they're okay. But anything that comes along that threatens to disturb it, they almost like switch roles, and this person who's kind of in control and in charge and giving all the time suddenly becomes terribly, terribly anxious and worried about being abandoned and very, very needy. So, does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. And I think it's when I've been thinking about people that I know in these relationships, there seems to be a confusion between sort of love and pity or empathy. You know, it's the emotions are mixed. You know, they can get mixed up. And it's quite interesting to hear what you're saying about that can switch, because as you were saying that, I was thinking about the relationships I know, and I've seen that happen. I have seen that happen. Certainly as addiction, as it worsens, if you like, and then perhaps someone goes into recovery, the dynamics change all the time then. And it's strange I hadn't thought of that, but it's a good point. So if you're in a codependent relationship in your childhood, as you touched on early on. Would that lead to you to necessarily people having sort of intimacy issues later on?
Can do.
Yeah. Would you necessarily look for that sort of relationship later on because you're comfortable with it?
Well, what you're doing is if you feel as if you're growing up as a child and you feel your needs aren't met, so that's kind of that's a traumatic situation for you. And I know we've in the past debated the kind of definition of trauma. I think of trauma in a broad sense.
Yeah.
So, something is traumatic for you. This is your emotional needs are not being met. And so I suppose broadly you could say you might go one of two ways with that. So thinking about addiction, because obviously this podcast is about addiction.
Yeah.
One of the ways in which you might respond to your needs not being met as a child is you might self-soothe through addiction.
Right, yeah.
You might grow up and self-soothe through addiction. The other way you might go is you might have concluded, because if you self-soothe through addiction, what you're doing is your addiction is covering up your feelings of low self-worth.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. But if you don't go into addiction, one of the other alternatives open to you is that you might consider that the only way of overcoming these feelings of low self-worth and not being good enough is to relentlessly give to other people to try and prove your value.
Yeah, yeah. So how do we become less codependent? How do we move there? How do we shift our emphasis? Or how do we shift our behaviours to deal with that? I've got a few little pointers here that I looked up. Again, they're a little bit woolly, some of them, but and quite difficult to put into practice sometimes. But the first one was to learn to put your own needs first.
That's the one.
Easier said than done, though, isn't it?
It is easier said than done, but that is the one. And actually, you're right. When you say it's easier said than done, that's spot on. But it's kind of one of those questions where people, so if someone's been in therapy for any length of time, for example, and they kind of understand their codependency and they recognize their patterns, this is one of those classic situations where people will often say, yeah, but how do I do it? How do I change? How do I satisfy my own needs? And it's a kind of point of frustration for people because, of course, there's no answer because everybody does it differently. There's no plan. It's not like, well, do this, and you'll be okay. You can only really break out of codependency if you learn to satisfy your own needs and prioritize yourself. But the route to doing that for some people is really long and arduous, and other people probably find it easier. I mean, I had to do that really when I was kind of trying to recover from the codependency out on my mother. But this is the other thing, of course. We think that when we have codependency with a parent, when the parent dies, we'll be free from it. That's bullshit.
Is it?
Yeah, because we've taken it on ourselves by that time. It's like the mantle that we carry.
Oh, okay.
And you have to learn to recognize that you matter as much as other people.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, I mean, therapy is a good way of doing that, I have to say. I'm not often a massive flag waver for therapy, but in this case, I think it's pretty difficult to deal with long-term codependency on your own.
No, that came out as one of the points of dealing with it was to work with a mental health professional, get yourself a therapist.
So there's also some good peer support groups on codependency as well.
Yes, that works as well. That was on the list. But you mentioned earlier, just a moment ago, about patterns. And one of the points was when you're trying to become less codependent was to identify patterns in your life. Now you touched on it there, but I didn't quite understand what they were meaning there. Can you expand on that a little bit? Yeah.
So, for example, to take one of the things we were talking about earlier, when you get to the point where you recognise that you have a tendency towards codependency, it will kind of crop up everywhere in your life. So, take something simple as not being able to say no.
Yeah.
So, if you find that difficult, you've got to the point now where you recognise that your inability to say no is a pattern of your codependency and something that needs to change because it means you're constantly prioritizing someone else's needs over your own. So one of the ways in which you start to work on it is when someone asks you to do something, you hear your instinctive voice, I'm going to say yes, but then you ask yourself, am I saying yes because I want to, or am I saying yes because I ought to? And if you work out it's because you're saying yes because you feel like you ought to, your challenge is to start saying no.
Right. Okay.
Start pushing back. And it's terribly, terribly difficult in a lot of cases. But what you learn by pushing back and saying no is that you won't immediately be abandoned by the people that you think are going to abandon you when you push back against them. Whereas if you never say no, you're never going to learn that.
No,
so
true.
It's those sorts of patterns of behavior that you need to try and corrupt. You need to try and change those behaviors.
Okay. No,
I think that's a lot of the work that, if I think about the people I work with in that regard, that's a lot of our work, to try and identify what typical codependent behaviors are and how they can work on practically changing them so that they, feel safe living a healthier emotional life.
Because that all makes sense. But there's the old favourites come up here that we've talked about lots of times in the past. Things about learning how to set boundaries and start to practice mindfulness. And again, perhaps two areas that seem to cover a lot of the stuff that we talk about often come up, don't they? So it shows just how important they are.
Yeah, I think the boundary thing is right. I don't know about mindfulness. I mean, mindfulness seems to be suggested as a panacea for all ills these days.
It does, doesn't it? It comes up.
I'm a big believer in it, but I don't really know. I suppose the way that mindfulness might contribute here is when you're kind of in the moment with your own thoughts, you are focusing on yourself. Because the recovery from codependency is about finding a way to focus on your own needs. So I suppose mindfulness might help there. But I'd say learning how to establish healthy boundaries really is absolutely critical.
It is. You can chunk down on that, can't you? Do it in little bits and pieces. We love a chunk down.
Indeed.
That comes up all the time as well. Chunking down. I quite like the phrase, but it's very relevant in many areas.
It is. I mean, it starts with a fundamental desire to change, like everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if the only change is suspending the belief that you aren't as worthy as other people, even if you can just question that and say, actually, I've always thought this. I've always thought I wasn't as important as other people. What if I'm wrong? What if actually I am as valuable as other people and I've just learned through circumstance and experience that I'm not? And maybe that's a dysfunctional belief and an inaccurate belief. It's just being able to question it might be enough to start changing things.
So that's hopefully I've done it justice, because that was a complex area. But
it's good. I think it's good that we took codependency on. That's a big one.
It is a big one, and it just seemed to roll on quite nicely from while. So it's been quite serious today, really. So we move on to a gratitude list. So we lighten the whole thing. You're
assuming that I've got something light-hearted in my gratitude list.
Well, it's less intense. Let's put it that way. My one.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go first then.
Okay.
This week.
Okay.
I'm grateful for being able to grow things.
Okay.
Right. I was planting my apple tree yesterday.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the apple tree you ordered, and I can't remember.
It was a bit annoying though, because the place where I wanted to plant it, I was digging down. I was trying to knock in the stake, because you have to support an apple tree.
Of course, yeah.
Not emotionally,
no,
but physically. And I found that somebody in a past life in this house had buried loads of bloody hardcore. So I got down about 2 foot, and it was just nothing but bloody bricks and God knows what else. So I couldn't drive my stake in.
Well, I have no sympathy with you there, because I came across that constantly in your garden. We were putting up that fence.
It was exactly in that part of the garden.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, right, I'll abandon this. I'll go and I'll plant it somewhere else, and I'll grow something with that has shallow roots down there. But it just got me to thinking about how grateful I am, what a privilege it is just to have a little bit of ground to be able to put things in and watch them grow. Because as we've spoken about before, just having that around you makes such a difference to your feelings of well-being. So
exactly.
It almost felt spring-like yesterday as well. So.
There was a period yesterday it was quite warm, yeah. But I'm looking forward to picking one of the first apples off of your green sleeves tree.
Yeah, you might have to wait a couple of years, but
might have to wait a long time.
I'll probably kill it, because I kill most things that I plant. I just like the planting. Anyway, what's on your gratitude list?
Well, it was I'm going to put I was very grateful for that tip you gave me.
Right.
For putting hot water into I put it into a sandwich bag and then wiped it over my windscreen. It just took the ice off of my car, because this week, I think the previous week, I've been grateful for not having to scrape my car. And then the temperatures have plummeted again, so my car has been iced up.
Yeah.
And it took it off really quickly.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
It is. The only thing I did find that I had to, because I did the windscreen and went round and did the rest of the windows. I come to the front, because it was still really cold, it frozen back up again. Well, what I found was, if I put the windscreen wipers on intermittent, and I can wipe between them, then the wipers would come off and get rid of that excess water, and you didn't have that problem. So it was a learning curve, but I was very grateful that it took way less effort, and much less noisy.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. And I always have a little chuckle to myself when I see people scraping their windscreens in the morning. I think, well,
yeah, you've got to use the hot water in a sandwich bag trick. And
so you went for the sandwich bag, not the briefcase. Then
I didn't go for the briefcase. No, I felt that was going to be. It would take a lot longer to heat up. And
the satchel.
Yeah. So it worked well. I could see someone looking at me. I was out in the car park doing it, where everyone else's cars are parked there, and I could see someone looking across, thinking, "What's he doing over there?" Let's read their mind.
It'll be viral, won't it? It'll go viral.
I was going to go and talk to him about it, but I couldn't be asked. So I was grateful. So thank you for giving me that tip. It worked.
You're welcome.
It worked well.
You're welcome.
Daysoftheyear.com. There's 3 days. Just wanted to mention. The first one was Darwin Day.
Right. He was good, wasn't he, old Charles?
He liked a bit of theory, the lad, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had a look at evolution. Upset a lot of religious people, but I think now we know it as fact, and it's.
We haven't done evolution, have we yet?
No, we haven't.
Yeah.
But, evolution of emotions and stuff, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Well, I think we could do evolutions just start at the beginning of time.
Oh, okay.
Do an episode bringing us right up to date.
We could do. It wouldn't be relevant to what we normally talk about, but it would take a long time, wouldn't it?
Well, it'd be broadly relevant because people will get so distressed and depressed at us droning on that they'd need some mental health support. I might turn to the bottle.
Yeah, I'd hate to be responsible for that, that's for sure. We'll move on to the next day, which is National Plum Pudding Day today.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what plum pudding is.
It's Christmas pudding, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no plums in it. I mean, I don't understand that.
Oh, no, hang on.
Okay.
So a lot of people put prunes in their Christmas pudding. I do. They're plums. They're plums.
Yeah. Just shriveled up a bit.
Yeah. So that's plum pudding. That's a funny day to have plum pudding.
I know. It is strange, isn't it? But now apparently that is today.
So does that mean because I, as you know, always make 2 Christmas puddings?
Yes.
So I've got 1 left. So perhaps I should eat that today.
You could eat that today, or start preparing the next year's one today.
Yeah, I'm not going to bother doing that.
Not going to do that.
Got any prunes?
Didn't think you would. But the other one was National Lost Penny Day. Now that is the idea behind that was look down the back of your sofa and get your loose change together, go around, have a bit of a scrabble about, see what loose change you got, and give it to charity. So, that's quite a nice touch, I thought.
Okay. Oh, that's where it's come from, is it? National Loose Change Day.
So
look around, find things that have gone missing, and then give them to charity.
Exactly. On this day, music.
Yeah.
Okay, there wasn't a great deal, really. 2015, Steve Strange died. Remember Steve Strange?
I do remember Steve Strange, but I wouldn't have been. If you'd asked me if he was dead, I'd probably have said no. I don't think he is. So I've learned something, haven't I?
He was only 55.
We've already got past that, haven't we? So that's reasons for celebration.
We've outlived the fade to grey man, haven't we?
He faded to grey before we did.
He faded to black completely, didn't he? Yeah, he blacked out. That was it, gone. Anyway, poor old Steve Strange. In 1967, so going back quite a long time here, the police raided the home of Keith Richards. He comes up a lot on here, doesn't he, in the Rolling Stones?
Did they find anything?
Well, during a weekend party they raided it, but they waited apparently for George Harrison to leave the party because they didn't want to bust a holder of an MBE.
Or a Beatle.
Or a Beatle, yeah, perhaps. They were big Beatles fans and thought, we'll wait for George and his missus to leave, and then we're right.
I would have said that holding back on the raid because he's a Beatle is much more important than because he's an MBE.
Because he's an MBE, yeah.
I mean, there are loads of MBEs, aren't there? But there's only 4 Beatles.
Only 4 Beatles. Or the 5th Beatle, obviously, Pete Best.
Pete Best, yeah. But he's dead as well.
He's alive still.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is Pete Best alive?
He is, yeah. In fact, I was reading something the other day that there were some long-lost recordings that they found that the Beatles record company released, or Apple released, and all of a sudden he got a load of royalties in. So I think he got a check. I think I think that it amounted to a lot of money, several million quid.
Really?
Yeah. And all of a sudden, all these years later, because I always think he dealt with the situation with real dignity. He could have been really pissed off about being replaced by Ringo Starr, but he didn't. He just cracked on. He had his own band, didn't he? Didn't really have much success, but he was. And then all these years later, he's got a bit of benefit from it.
It's probably easier to be dignified when you've just got a £3 million royalty check.
Oh, well, he was dignified I was saying right from the start, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. Saying that his dignity has been, has been repaid, hasn't it?
It has. He's got the reward for it, and I think that good on him. I think it was more than 3 million. Someone was saying it was like 13 million, but it seems a lot. But
that seems quite a lot. Dignity. Who was that? Deacon Blue. Was that Deacon Blue?
Called Dignity. Yeah, something like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good song, actually.
We haven't done Dignity, have we?
We haven't done Dignity. That's not a word that comes up very often.
I don't know how we'd chew that in. I'm sure we'd find
Well, we could just talk about Deacon Blue.
We could. I wouldn't want to, but you could do just for a little while.
Because didn't Ricky Ross leave his wife for the girl that was in the band?
You're talking names. I don't know who Ricky Ross is.
He's a singer of Deacon Blue.
Deacon Blue, was he?
Have you not got any Deacon Blue in your collection?
No, I haven't. No, it's a little bit. I'm surprised you have. It's a little bit mainstream, really. Wasn't it? It's a bit poppy.
Oh, no, I liked that. All that Deacon Blue stuff. Oh, he's a good songwriter, isn't
he? Yeah, I suppose so. Ish. Anyway, the last one, just in 2005. Do you remember last week we had the story about Johnny Cash having a black tarantula named after him?
I do, yeah.
This week I came across Joe Strummer, obviously from The Clash.
What's he had? A tortoise named after him?
No, he's had a Class 47 locomotive train named after him. So that's cracking, isn't it?
Which would you prefer?
I was trying to think when I was looking at my notes. I think I'd still go for the tarantula. Really,
I'd definitely have the train.
It's more significance, I think.
I'd have the train. I tell you what, I'd have the train. I'd have the train because my name would be on the side of it. You can't put your name on the side of a tarantula.
Well, you could wear a little T-shirt, couldn't you? The tarantula, but you could write it on his legs. Tattoo him.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to tattoo a tarantula.
No, they'd get angry, wouldn't they?
You'd have to sedate it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they'd look at you funny, wouldn't they? Yeah, you wouldn't want that.
The very idea of that is quite unnerving, actually.
Should we leave it there then?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's enough, isn't it?
Yeah, more then.
All right then. Good.
Okay, mate.
Laters.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.